Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, the world's leading authority on childcare marketing, mindset, expansion, and profitability. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches and are the top-selling childcare business book authors of all time. This episode is sponsored by Childcare Genius Marketing. Let Childcare Genius Marketing help you get fully enrolled and fully staffed. Visit childcaregenius.com for more details. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast our hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre.
Welcome to episode 92 of the Childcare Genius Podcast.
We're your hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to join us today for episode 92. And we got a great guest lined up. You're going to love this lady from Alabama. Her name is Johnnie Frost, and she's a multi-center owner, owns 3 schools down there. We just completed the interview, and it's fantastic. You're going to like it. She's done all kinds of different builds.
Yeah.
From existing to new construction to just opening from scratch. So she's done it all, and she's got great experience. We've coached her for a while now and really enjoyed her and her husband. They're just really fantastic people. So you're going to love this interview. Just a reminder before we get started, we have our Leverage Conference. We talk about it in our podcast a little bit. It's in Jamaica. It's September 30th through October 4th. And ticket prices are going up. The tickets right now are $4.99 a piece, but they go up on Friday at midnight. So that's this week. So if you are listening to this, we're running low on tickets. So if you don't want to pay $100 more for a ticket, they're going up $4.99 to $5.99. Buy your tickets today. Go to childcaregenius.com and click on the conference tab under Leverage and get your tickets today. Because they will sell out. We should be selling this out sometime in May, and I don't think we'll sell out before this podcast airs. But you want to get those tickets as fast as you can, and it's the most amazing conference you'll ever visit and go to. I guarantee it. So, all right, so let's get on and introduce Johnnie. So let's get her on the line.
Hi, Johnnie. Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Carol, for having me.
So good to see you, Johnnie. It's been a whole couple weeks since we saw you in Las Vegas at our conference.
Yes.
How was the conference for you?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we loved it. We made a long weekend out of it, and it was incredible. We got to do a lot of things, spend some time just kind of, letting loose a little bit, and then just a lot of really good information to bring home and kind of start implementing.
So it was good to have you. I mean, we got to know you at our Jamaica conference last year. We got to spend time with you in Las Vegas. That was good. And I've been watching you. I've coached you through the year. And I said, you know what? I should be a great guest to have on the podcast. And I know a lot of people can relate to your story. So I figured, why don't you come on? And thank you so much. I had to twist your arm a little bit to get you to come on because you're so humble. But I appreciate you coming on. So why don't you tell our listeners a little more about your background, what your life was like before the childcare business?
Yeah. So we were, before childcare, we were just like any other normal, American family, kind of living the American dream. My husband and I both work full time, and we have 2 kids and a dog, and, just kind of all those things. They kept us busy with, extracurriculars, basically just kind of doing what most, middle class families, are doing. My background is in education. So I taught public school for a couple of years before our kids were born, and was in elementary schools in underprivileged areas, and ended up not spending very long in the classroom because what I saw from being in that environment didn't align with my values, because there was such a pressure on, even years ago, high stakes testing. It was all about standardized testing and scores and federal dollars. And it was really hard because I would have kids who would, they would sleep in their cars or be in homeless shelters and have to come in and were just expected to perform. And that's not why I got into education. So I walked away after a couple of years of doing that, ended up in the corporate world and had a really successful career in corporate procurement, and was just a fun few years. I missed that job. It was just really special. It was a unique environment because I was in manufacturing facilities, and there was just so much. Every day was, a new adventure. So I did that for several years, and our daughter was born in 2015 and went back to work like everybody else does after maternity leave. And, we ended up having some really, really bad childcare experiences. And there was a particular day where I dropped her off, and I called my husband, Mike, and I was just in tears because I just said to him over and over again, no family should feel like this. No parent should feel like they have to leave their child somewhere because there's not another alternative. And there at the same time was a death of a young boy in a local center that was not licensed, because in Alabama, their churches are exempt. And his death, and then what we were experiencing with our own daughter, it just really set with me in a way that I felt like I needed to be doing more. And I didn't want parents to experience the stress of, having to choose between working and, subpar childcare. So that was really kind of a catalyst for me to get back to, the educational side. And I think, even at a young age, back when I was in high school, I always had a very big, lofty dream of owning a preschool that really focused on the educational aspect and not so much the, the daycare side of things. Didn't really ever think that it would happen, but, those experiences kind of set me off on a path of doing research and figuring out, was it possible? And my husband will tell you he should get credit for it, because when I gave the idea to him, he said, we are a 2-income family. There is no way, like, where are we going to get the money? This is crazy. And anybody that knows me knows that I don't take no for an answer very easily. So persistence and tenacity and proving people wrong are kind of my middle name. And I guess it gave me a little bit more spark to really kind of investigate what business ownership was, and then what childcare ownership was, especially.
Wow.
Tell our audience about your childcare centers and why they're different from other centers in your area.
So we have 3 centers, all located kind of in the same, town. Didn't design it that way. It's just kind of how it worked out. So we have our first, we opened in 2018, was a business acquisition. We took over for, a retiring owner who had a, great program, great person, very much aligned with our educational philosophy. And we had a lot of organic growth because the area was really just kind of exploding around us. So 2020, we opened our second location around the corner. There was a church with some space that needed to be, they were wanting to lease it. And another center was going to go in there, but then ended up not being able to go into that location. So we had 220 kids on the waiting list, and we figured, hey, why not? So we opened up there, and we filled those rooms. I think in 3 weeks we were at max capacity, and we were in the process of designing ground up construction. And so we just finished ground up construction in 2023 on our third location. I am a big person. I tell my admin staff this all the time. I use the phrase people over positions. And I think a lot of what makes us different is that, first of all, I attribute every bit of our success to the staff that we have, because we would not be anything without, what they're doing in the classrooms, and they are incredible. But we wanted to go into it with a mindset of seeing them as human beings and not just a place in the company. So we have really great connections with our employees, and we spend a lot of time trying to develop them, from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint. We offer them, benefits, and we just signed on to a registered apprenticeship program. So we're really investing in them and in their futures, whether they stay with us or they go off to teach in the public school, just giving them an opportunity to do something that they wouldn't normally have been able to do without these programs. So we focus a lot on our staff development and our staff retention. Our admin team they are the epitome of servant leaders. They've been in the classroom, so they serve their staff really well. And I think for us, we try to think outside of the box a lot. So we see things like developmental behaviors and challenging behaviors after COVID. And rather than just letting our teachers struggle through that and kind of having the mindset of, this is what it is, I have spent a lot of time building really great relationships with, different community organizations that can come into their environment and help them with the specific challenges that they are facing, so that they feel, that extra support, and they feel like they can do it. And, these kids that we have that may be suffering from developmental delays and things like that, that there are programs, for the teachers and for the parents. And I think it's just the mindset of trying to change the atmosphere of what early childhood education is. Our vision and what our teachers will tell you is that we want to change what the perception of childcare is. Instead of babysitting, we are really on a mission to have the public and our communities recognize us as professionals, especially post COVID. So we are constantly, trying to drive the narrative that what we do is important work, and, that they are professionals, and that they are, really focused on the quality aspect, in our classrooms. And I think that has kind of been what sets us apart, is because we have a staff that very much believe in that mission with us, and they very much are, they're the same goal. And I'm very big on advocacy and being the voice, because a lot of people in our industry don't want to speak up. Either they're afraid to, or they're too tired to. So I am a person where if something doesn't align with my values, I'm going to say it. And I've kind of been thrust into an advocacy, role with other organizations in the state. But I think that it's because I want to make sure that we are trying to drive the narrative and changing the climate across the nation of what childcare really is.
Well said, Johnnie. That's awesome. And I love how your team has that buy-in.
Mhm.
And I was talking to somebody coaching this week, and I was like, you're the captain, but you have to let the crew know where the ship is headed.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, we don't let our team know what our goals are and where our business is. So they're just, it's a job to them. It's not a mission. So, be the captain and make sure the crew knows in what direction everybody's rowing. That's so important. So I love how you said that. So what are some obstacles you faced when trying to open your schools?
I think, the biggest obstacles that we had were just in a lack of resources. So each building had its own set of challenges, just because they were all very different with how we opened them. But when we were first starting out, the one thing that really sticks out to me is that, I spent hours and days combing the internet for whatever information that I could find, and it was tedious. But in that waiting period where we were trying to kind of figure out, are we going to renovate a building and different things, I just busied myself with learning everything that I could. But one of the big things that I think was an obstacle was just that the information was so disconnected. And we were very fortunate because we connected with the Small Business Development Council in Alabama. And I tell anybody who asks me anything about business ownership that they need to reach out to the SBDC. And if you're in a state, the very first thing that you should look for in your state is whether there is a similar organization, because I think that was really a turning point for us, because they were able to provide us education and mentorship, and it was completely free. So we learned how to write a business plan. We learned how to do projections. We just got a lot of information. And then when it came down to funding, probably the biggest obstacle was, there's not a lot of banks that want to take a risk on a business owner with no business background. And you're, talking about an industry that, may or may not, succeed. So the good thing with connecting with them is that they were connected with lenders who wanted to take that risk. They wanted to partner, with someone, and it just opened up a lot of doors, for us. New construction, I think, is not for the faint of heart. So I'm just now coming out of the period where, we're getting over just kind of some of the insanity of construction in general. So it's got its own set of challenges. I think it just comes down to the matter of, what their vision is when you're getting started. I would walk back through the new construction, a million times, because when I walk into that building, it really is a dream realized, because it's everything that I had in my head, and I was there and I designed that. And, this is my brainchild. And so I love the building, but it's really hard to be a perfectionist and go through new construction.
Well said. Every you're right. Every type of opening has a challenge to it, but I don't think I've ever seen a smooth new construction, at least since COVID started, with supply chain issues and delays, price overruns, over budget, and delays. It's been brutal.
Yes.
So I'm kind of not recommending new builds right now.
No.
Until we get
That's where the persistence came into play, though. That's where, it was the hit with the nose, and, planning and zoning, which our city was great. They were really good to work with, but, we had wetlands issues, and I'm just like, okay, what else? What else is the universe going to throw at me today? So, but, you just, you get up the next day and, you decide you're going to break through the wall and keep going. So, it's not, I don't think I would recommend new construction to anybody either.
Not right now. Yeah, you're right. Not for the faint at heart. I love that terminology.
Yeah. How has coaching helped you grow your business?
I think coaching has probably been the biggest benefit of anything that we have done. So we are fortunate that we knew that we needed a coach. I think that, sometimes you don't, by the time you realize you need a coach, you probably needed a coach way sooner than that. But I am thankful that, we are, part of the coaching group now, just because I think for me, coaching is a way for someone else to have a different perspective of what I'm seeing. When you're in the weeds, you can't see anything else. And I think it's also really beneficial because when you're working with your coach, they can see that you're starting to get slightly off track, and they can make that course correction way sooner. So it's just that little bit of it's just that little bit of change that maybe you don't realize that, you're a little bit off, that they can kind of bring you back to center. But also too, in the group, and just the bonds that you form, we have such an amazing group that is I tell everybody, we don't gatekeep information. If we think that it's going to help somebody else, it's like it's a very open forum, to share. And, for me, it's really inspirational that I can see people that are walking the same path as me, but maybe, steps ahead of where I'm at. So it gives me something to work towards. It gives me people to, want to, emulate and really see what they're doing, but then also learn from, some of the side steps and the mistakes that they've made along the way. So I think it's just really beneficial because it's a support system that you wouldn't normally have because, it's really lonely at the top and you don't have a lot of people that you can, discuss things with. And especially when you have really heavy decisions that you have to make for your program, you need a safe space where you can just, it's not always about getting advice. Sometimes it's just about getting hey, I've been there. I know where you're at. You're going to be okay. I'm here for you, that kind of support. So for me, coaching has given me an opportunity to kind of see those things and really to step out of my day-to-day business. I love being in my buildings, but coaching helped me realize that I actually am stunting my growth. And the business growth, because when I go into the buildings, then I kind of circumvent my leaders and my admin team. So I'm not giving them the opportunity to do what they do best. And I just kind of needed to step out and, let them shine and let them lead their teams. And I don't think if I had not had coaching that I would have had that same mindset.
Because it's hard for perfectionists to delegate, isn't it, Johnny?
It is terrible, but I'm getting so much better at it. I have an incredible coach and she's
doing great.
yeah.
But it's hard for us people with perfectionists and control people like myself that like the control of things to delegate is hard. And it sometimes takes coaching and therapy to get through those, to let go and trust other people.
Coaching is therapy.
Coaching is therapy.
It is. It really is. There's a lot of times where that's exactly what it feels like, is you just need somebody to kind of stand there with you on the ledge for a minute and tell you, hey, breathe, we're going to get through this.
You're going to get through it. You're 100% right. And not being alone. So darn lonely being a childcare owner. It's hard to go.
And it's tough. Yeah, even on the good days, it's still a tough because it's a high stakes industry, and it's difficult, and you need a tribe of people around you to really make it through it.
Sure. So you attended our leverage conference in Jamaica last year and our live conference in Vegas this year. So right now we're selling tickets for our leverage conference in Jamaica. We have a few left. Why should somebody come to that event? What you came for the first time? It was your first conference with us. What did you get out of it? And would you recommend?
It was amazing. We were actually talking last night about going back. We were so fortunate. We actually took our entire family. So our kids are counting down the days to come back. But it was such a unique environment because, first of all, it is absolutely gorgeous. You have no choice but to disconnect from the world that, you live in day to day. And it was so different because we had a lot of content in a short period of time, but it was the presenters and, and the coaches, when they were doing their presentations, it was so easy to digest, but then we had the entire afternoon to kind of ponder on it and really, kind of start to figure out, which of the pieces were we going to take back and we were going to implement. So it's different because you're not just trying to consume all the information in a short amount of period. And you just have time to kind of, relax and unwind. I think probably one of the best parts for us was that, my husband, Mike, he was able to go with us. And that was the first time we had really been able to do anything together. He doesn't work necessarily in the business all day with me. He's kind of the after hours person, but he was able to connect with the husbands. And I think that was the first time that I realized that I take for granted that sometimes he has his own set of challenges, mainly because he doesn't know exactly how to support me because he doesn't walk through it every day. But I didn't realize that there were, other the other husbands sometimes felt the same way and they kind of felt helpless. But it was a really unique experience for us, as a couple and as a family. And then, just hanging out in the pool afterwards was, you know, it was great. I mean, we just got to spend time with people. We really got to, I think that's where we formed the connections that we had, is just to kind of hang out and get to know each other. And it, not being, stressful, and just, I mean, it was just so relaxing and so peaceful.
Yeah, it's our favorite conference for sure.
Yeah.
Great
Mhm.
everything. The pool is where the pool is where the magic happens for sure.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It was just, and it was so spacious too. You never felt like you were on top of anybody. The resort was just so laid out. It was, it just was great. It was phenomenal.
If you're listening, come join us. We'd love to meet you for
Yes.
sure.
You will not regret it. You will not regret it.
If you had it to do all over again, what would you do differently?
Man, if I had to do it all over again, I think there's a couple of things. One, I would probably have started out with coaching sooner, because that's one of those you don't know what you don't know kind of things. So, I can see where a coach would have helped earlier on in our business journey, partly because we didn't spend a lot of time in the beginning defining our processes and our systems. And when I look at what some of our pain points for growth were, it was that I had been running the centers and that was fine, but every bit of information was in my head. And we're in the process now of getting it out of my head and onto paper so that we can continue to grow and we can continue to scale. But I think, having a coach, I would have been able to have seen that needed to be done a little bit earlier. But then, from kind of a personal side, I think we're going on 6 years now. I would go back to 2018 and tell myself daily that it's okay that you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. I think that's the perfectionist side, but it's also the wanting to fix people and, just being that people pleaser. But I have had to learn that, it's okay that our program's not the right fit for every single person. And I can't make every parent and every employee happy, 100% of the time. So I'm having to, it's a work in progress, because I don't want people, to be upset, but at the same time, it's just, there are things that you have to do, and not everybody is going to like everything that you do all the time. And then just giving myself some grace, because when there's times that you don't do things correctly and, you might make a mistake, then, it's still an opportunity to learn. I think some of the best learning experiences that we've had is when, we have gotten things wrong. But just giving myself grace and not to replay those instances and see them as a negative, but just to understand that, there's a learning experience and then there's a growth opportunity in all of it.
For sure. Well said, Johnny. This has been a really good interview.
Yeah.
And we want to thank you for taking your time out. And I'm so glad you decided to share your knowledge, which is very
Yeah.
extensive. You've done a lot. And you figure 95% of childcare owners never open a second school. So you've done that. You've gotten past the hard part. The second school is the hardest one to open.
Mhm.
You've been through that. You've been through a new
Yes.
build. Oh my God. Now you can scale this as big as you want or as little as you want. You can make it whatever you want because you've been through the hard stuff. You can
Yes.
do it.
Yeah. So we are looking forward to the future. I see this, it's our mission field, and, the more kids and the more families and the more staff members that we can impact and, better the quality of their lives, that's ultimately what we want to do.
Way to make a difference in the lives of children and staff too. I mean, the staff, you make a difference in the lives of there too.
Yeah.
So we thank you for making a difference in the lives of our listeners. So thank you for coming on the Childcare Journeys podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Boy, that was a good one.
It was very good.
She is pretty dynamic and she's a great speaker.
She's a
Goodness.
great speaker.
Knows a lot. I love listening to her. I learned from her. as much as she learns from me, and her husband's really cool too. So,
Yeah.
and I like what she said, that Mike was able to connect with other men because our leverage conference is attended by about 40% men. It's the
Yeah.
most attended conference for men in the world for childcare by far. Usually when men we go to a childcare conference where it's 5% of the room is men. We're
Yeah.
surrounded by women. And not that that's a bad thing, but guys sometimes want to hang out with other guys and learn and
Some of the men are men that work with their wives, and some of them, they just support their wives and want to understand the business a little bit more.
sure. And we have several men
Yeah.
that build the business without the wife. So the wife is
Yeah.
going to come to the conference so she can learn what her husband does all day
Yeah.
long in the childcare business too.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing about our conference. It's about 40% couples building the business together, and about 20%, 40%, 80% of the room is about couples building the business. So it's
Yeah.
about 40% men, and then other 20% are just single,
Right.
either single people or people building the business without a spouse, or somebody that
Yeah.
doesn't want it, their husband does or wife doesn't want to go to Jamaica.
Right.
So they went with somebody else.
And sometimes, I mean, your spouse can come with you to the conference and just hang out at the resort while you're
True,
at the
we have a few of them
conference
too, that they didn't
Yeah.
feel like coming to our event, which is perfectly fine as well. So you'll need a ticket for each attendee. Again, $4.99, childcaregenius.com. And if we can help you in your business, please reach out. Get a free coaching call. We offer that. If you're a center owner and you're struggling, let us give you a little bit of help, point you in that right direction, get you rowing in that, towards your goals in the right direction. So go to our website, childcaregenius.com. Under the coaching tab, select that like a free coaching call. I'll get you on a call with one of our coaches to help steer you in that right direction, help you in your business. So with that, we're going to conclude episode 92, the Childcare Genius podcast. Thank you for welcoming into your homes, in your car, wherever you're listening to us, walking down the road, jogging, or where just ever you'd happen to be listening to us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy life for us.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss a future episode of the Childcare Genius podcast. And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Childcare Genius podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help grow your childcare business. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Childcare Genius community.